did what? Let me get this straight. A princess? You and a princess. For fuck's sake, Hayden. It's like I hate you, but also kind of admire you. Wait, she wasn't Cassis's sister, was she? Well, I don't think any of us should be sleeping with the enemy.
That's easy for you to say. Nobody's looking for you.
You son of a... You did what? That's ridiculous! We can't trust them! Fine! But we're not done talking about this!
So, am I gonna get to go into the city? I'd like to get some trim myself.
Hiya! Penguin Truth here, and it's time for Otaku Revolution! I hope going from one end of the quality spectrum in my previous video to the other in this one doesn't give you whiplash. You'll need to be in the right condition for the explosive pace of one of the OVA greats, and one of my favorite anime period, Giant Robo. I've been meaning to get to another of the Rivet Robot anime, but haven't done one since... Yikes, since Steam Detectives. I'll try to get to Big O at some point before the heat death of the universe. There's a lot to unpack with Giant Robo. For a 7-episode OVA, it has so much to cover. It's hard to do it justice in one of these videos. But I'll cover the basics and leave you to seek it out and watch it. If you can find it, that is. I'd love to see the Blu-ray released domestically. And for the record, I'm using the Media Blaster's English dub, for better or worse.
Professor Volger! Damn you and Big Fire! I won't let you suck the power out of one more Shizuma Drive!
As with the Tetsugen 28 series I reviewed in my first year doing this, Giant Robo was inspired by the work of Mitsutaro Yokoyama. For one, obviously, the original Giant Robo manga, but also Yokoyama's adaptations of Romance of the Three Kingdoms and Water Margin, his original works Babel II, Mars, Kamen no Ninja Akakage, and others. It's a veritable who's who of characters featured in Yokoyama's works. Part of its charm is finding new context for those characters. And naturally, the director, and largely the writer of this masterwork, was the man who would go on to helming G Gundam and Shin Mazinger, the director of the aforementioned Tetsugen series, Yasuhiro Imagawa. And a more underrated figure in anime I cannot name. The man has contributed to Zeta Gundam, Berserk, and everyone's favorite 2006 anime meme, Bartender. It's a good show, by the way. I've never watched an Imagawa-directed anime that I didn't at least enjoy, and I frequently enjoyed his writing. Though he did write Virgin Fleet. Nobody's perfect, I guess. You cannot cover Giant Robo without talking, at least briefly, about wuxia. Wuxia is a genre of Chinese martial arts fiction that incorporates fantasy elements. The word wuxia means martial heroes, and wuxia works tend to involve larger-than-life characters using some sort of magic or super skills, defying physics, mostly as the result of training. They employ the use of life force, of energy, called chi, or ki in Japanese. Wuxia has been adapted into film and television numerous times, such as Ang Lee's award-winning film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, 2008's The Forbidden Kingdom, cartoons Avatar: The Last Airbender and its sequel The Legend of Korra, and Japanese puppet show Thunderbolt Fantasy. Oh, and Dragon Ball. Yeah, Dragon Ball is wuxia. Pretty much the entire franchise is wuxia, with science fiction thrown in. Which is why I feel like the original orchestral score suits it the best, even in the Z material. But more on that another time. You see, Giant Robo is an OVA that combines wuxia with a kind of Western retro-future aesthetic. Kind of a pulpy Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow meets Ancient Journey to the West vibe. Huh. I think I just described Dragon Ball again. Well, it still works, damn it. It's set in the near future, after the world's energy concerns have been solved with the revolutionary Shizuma Drive, a safe, clean, reusable battery for all technology. However, there's still a problem with evil organizations bent on world domination, as expected. The Big Fire Group utilizes giant superweapons to devastate the world, but they're opposed by the IPO's Special Experts of Justice. And amongst these specialists is a young boy who controls a giant robot with a wristwatch. The boy's name? Daisaku Kusama. The robots? Giant Robo! Conveniently, all of that is spelled out in the opening credits, so you have the rest of the run of each episode to be both bewildered and enticed. They really hit the ground running, too, with a chase scene on top of a train and the arrival of the eponymous Giant Robo.
What is that? No! It's Giant Robo! Hail, Big Fire! Allegiance or death!
Robo strike!
It seems that Big Fire's latest scheme involves gathering strange versions of the early Shizuma Drive, 3 samples that can create an anti-Shizuma field that disables and destroys all Shizuma drives within a certain radius. Even with 2, the group has done some damage, especially with the launching of the Volger sphere, said to have been invented by one of the men who developed the drive, Victor von Volger. Apparently he wasn't as dead as previously thought, and is out for revenge for some perceived slight. It's said that years ago, when the drive was being crafted, Volger caused a discharge of energy from the reactor that obliterated an entire country and disabled the world's power supply, and it looks as though he's intending to do so again. This plan would be pretty inconvenient for all parties, since pretty much everyone uses the Shizuma Drive. But nevertheless, Big Fire seems intent on seeing this through to the end, even though the Magnificent 10, the top representatives, are a little unsure as to their master's intent. All the power for this operation rests with a man named Genya. That summary was me diplomatically not spoiling later revelations. I know there are plenty who've never seen it, and for those who have, you'll understand that vagueness. In any case, I never intended to summarize the entire story of this. There's just too much content. It's a little disappointing that the viewer sees very few of the Celestial 9, the expert's opposite number to the Magnificent 10. Only Chief Chujo and Taiso are ever seen. It's odd that with stakes as high as they are, there wouldn't be more of them opposing the sphere. Are those 2 the only remaining members of the group? The Celestial 2 doesn't really have the same ring to it. Maybe they were planning a recruitment drive after this. But considering the Chief's ability is so powerful that everybody is scared of it, maybe 2 is all they need. And after all, there are other experts around. For a while, anyway. Because the 4th episode is a Tomino-esque... yeah, right, no spoilers. Let's just say that by the end of the series, there's still characters left, but many of the cast don't make it. Though it's unclear in some cases, as at least one guy can't even die, though he seems to a lot.
Mr. Murasame? Murasame! Say something, Mr. Murasame!
If it were to make any difference, I'd gladly do it as many times as was necessary.
Come to think of it, we only get to see so much of the Magnificent 10 as well. The only steadily prolific member is Alberto, one of the most badass and interesting characters in the entire OVA, and Taiso's rival. It's only in the final episodes we see the others begin to move, as they grow suspicious about the entire operation. While they all seem to share some similar abilities, they also each have a specialty. Except the dude in the graduation cap, I have no idea what his deal is. I'm too busy looking at the dude who slices things when he snaps. Just look at this guy. Amazing. I'd watch a whole show about him.
Whoa, what a showman!
Anyway, Giant Robo was mostly about Daisaku and showing how he grows a little wiser as he struggles with an adult world and countless tragedies. It sort of helps to have a giant robot for that, though. And the sympathetic ear of Ginrei, the buxom agent with the good heart and the very useful, albeit limited, ability. We discover that she has a connection to Genya and Vogler, but while she gets shaken, she always seems to endure with a smile on her face.
Thanks, but I can't help but feel like I'm all alone again.
What are you saying? You're an essential member of the Experts of Justice.
Yeah, but I don't think everyone agrees with you. Tetsuku said that without Robo, I'm just a kid.
He's just jealous of you. Jealous that even though you're only 12, you can control Robo.
Daisaku received Robo from his father, a scientist that worked with and turned against the BF group, and a big theme of the OVA is fathers and their impact on their children. Doesn't seem to be any moms, just fathers. Daisaku poses important questions to him that serves as an even more encompassing theme. Can happiness be achieved without sacrifice? Can a new era be reached without misfortune? By the time of the opening of this anime, Daisaku's father has already sacrificed his life for his son. The theme of sacrifice is carried over to the approach towards the threat of the Vogler sphere. Many heroic sacrifices are made throughout the story, but the very pragmatic Kenji Murasame sees them all as being for the greater good. He's willing to use Ginrei just as another long line of sacrifices for the cause. Daisaku has trouble understanding how anyone could sacrifice others, and if the tragedy is worth the diminishing returns on it. He wants a world where nobody has to be sacrificed to achieve happiness or stability, as any child might. He doesn't want to believe it'll always be necessary for those sacrifices. But the harsh truth is that the world of the Shizuma Drive was already built on human sacrifice. The tragedy of Bashtaral still sends shivers into those who lived through its fallout, especially since it's occurring again. Let's just say there were bugs in the prototype.
I made you this promise that one day, soon, I would deliver the people into the beautiful night so that they may face their fears and awake from them victorious! Triumph!
You've doubtlessly gleaned the quality of the production values by the clips I've included, and they are in no doubt essential elements in coloring the grand tableau that is Giant Robo. A striking sense of mise-en-scène, of composition, of balance and emotion is poured into nearly every shot of this 7-episode wonder. From the mostly simple yet memorable character designs to the lush and timeless environments and remarkably vibrant stellar animation, the Giant Robo OVA is a heavyweight in presentation and pushes the drama and the action in the plot that much further beyond ordinary boundaries and into the realm of masterpieces. The soundtrack is phenomenal, almost exquisite beyond words. Composed by Masamichi Amano and performed by the Warsaw Philharmonic Orchestra and Choir, it makes use of both leitmotifs and rearrangement of classic and operatic pieces. For instance, for the Tragedy of Bashtarl, the theme is an aria from the opera L'Elysir d'Amore, called Una furtiva lagrima. It shades the disaster with a sense of foolish hope and misunderstanding, which hints at the final twist of the story. I myself own the first 2 soundtracks on CD. One piece I'm fond of is Alberto's theme.
Aren't you troubled by how all this is being handled, Ivan?
Eh?
Ask yourself, for what reason would Big Fire create such cataclysmic weapons?
Why, for total world domination, of course.
Really? And what of Giant Robo's nuclear power drive, kept a secret even from the Magnificent 10? And now the Giant Sphere's nullification of all Shizuma drives across the planet. Are you not concerned this poses a threat even to us?
If the OVA has any deficits, besides not letting you catch your breath since everything seems to happen 100 miles per minute, it's the aforementioned final twist of the story. It kind of turns the entire conflict up until then as disposable, at least on the surface. I understand what Imagawa was going for, and I think it works in some ways, but in other ways, it feels like most of this entire thing could have been avoided if there was just better communication. But I think the finale ultimately compensates for that twist by really ramping up the emotional impact in action. Probably the best part of it involves Daisaku running a gauntlet through a mob of enemies to reach Giant Robo, being helped along the way. It may be the single most mind-blowing action sequence I've seen in an anime. It's certainly in the top 5. I'm showing you a little, but it really should be seen in its entirety. Oh, there might be another issue with the finale, but it's not really a problem with the plot or characters, but that it breathlessly sets itself up for a sequel after the main conflict is resolved. The whole Shizuma Vogler arc is over, but a lot of events here set up a final confrontation between the experts of justice and the Big Fire group that, as of 2018, has still never materialized.
The fate of the world will be held in the hands of a young man who controls the most powerful robot in the world.
Away! Go, Giant Robo!
The finale was in 1998, 20 years ago, which goes to show how long it took to make it all, since the first episode was released in 1992. But more to the point, where's Siege of Babel, Imagawa? Or the prequel chapters like Birth of Zangetsu the Midday, the plan to assassinate Daisaku, or the Domino Operation? But Imagawa doesn't do sequels. Just look at Shin Mazinger. He's walking around with all those ideas for story arcs locked in his head, and he won't show them to us. It's so frustrating. I want more Giant Robo. Not that Giant Robo. Imagawa's manga, Giant Robo the Day the Earth Burned, uses the characters from the OVA, but it's clearly not a sequel nor prequel to it. It's kind of a reworking of the general concepts for a different story. But hey, at least we see the entire Celestial 9. I'd even settle for an adaptation of this for animation. Just look how batshit crazy it is. But I can't very well stay mad at Imagawa, because this OVA is an absolute classic. The character development, especially of Daisaku and Tetsugu, the lived-in conflict between two great powers, the gorgeous production values, the spellbinding drama, and Imagawa's use of Yokoyama's manga to synthesize a brand new, almost entirely original product with its own identity. It's pretty amazing that Imagawa made what is essentially a professional crossover fanfic, and it all worked out. If this man is not on a list of your favorite anime directors, you just haven't seen enough of his work. Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still, is a must-watch for any fan of the medium, whether you're big on the genre or not. You know, I could probably keep going on with this, talk about the individual characters and moments, but I think you need to see it all to get the full impact. And I think I've made a pretty good case. And the only problem is actually finding an affordable release for this. The discs have been out of print for years, and Media Blasters is basically a phantom, so I can't imagine getting the Blu-rays, though I'd love to. You may have to resort to alternative methods to watch this, which is a shame. Imagawa really doesn't get enough credit either in Japan or overseas. He deserves better. Well, that wraps up this episode of Otaku Evolution. It was fun covering something worthwhile after that last video. I just wish I knew what I was doing next. My schedule's been marred by health problems. Must be the air up here. But I'll find something to review soon. Until then, see ya!
Sometimes I think we scientists are nothing more than the bringers of destruction, hiding behind the veil of progress. But, Father, my most sincere wish is that science finds a way to enable progress without the death and destruction that so often accompany it. That may perhaps be the only way in which we can ensure a future for this world.
Oh, hey, Llewellyn. Who's the girl?
I haven't gotten her name yet, but,
She isn't royalty, is she?
gonna eat her out like she is.
Out of the mouth of babes.
And in her mouth, too!